here listening to, you're watching Christian Eldership. We have the pastoral team at Pathway Church in Johnston, Iowa here, and we are going through the book They Smell Like Sheep by Dr. Lynn Anderson. And it's been around a little while. We've been talking about this the last few weeks. We're in chapter 3 today, a very short chapter. And let me get you to the guys so that we have everybody in here. Tell me, guys, what did you catch out of this? It was a very short chapter, but had some good stuff in it.
I'm going to steal what you just said.
All right.
Go ahead.
Go right ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I think that when I read stuff like this, and I see someone talking about the so-called crazy mixed up world we live in with our modern technology and our fancy phones, the truth is people have been distracted since the beginning of time. And it doesn't matter whether you're talking about Facebook or their fancy automobile or the new ox cart they just bought, whatever. I'm not trying to be facetious here. It's just, look, unless you're retired and you're sitting at home watching Wheel of Fortune all day, you have things to do. You have a family, you have a job, you're busy doing something. I think the point is, if you're trying to connect with other human beings, you have to try and connect in a way that fits you and the way that you talk to people and your gifts. If you're not a very touchy-feely person, you're probably not going to want to have a whole bunch of sit-ins in your house with a bunch of people talking about their feelings. If your thing is sports, you probably connect with other people by playing basketball or playing softball or something like that. I think you can apply that same philosophy to, in this case, eldership, whatever kind of leadership you're trying to do. Personally, I like to, I like firearms. I like to go to the range and shoot. I know that there's a lot of other guys and gals who like to do that kind of thing. That would be my kind of thing. I would love to have a ministry where we do that. I know that we also have a softball team here at church. I know that there's certain people that don't do firearms that do softball that love sports, and that's their thing. And yes, they're busy and they're out talking to each other, but they're connecting on that level. I think, and Brandon had mentioned this earlier before we started, that you kind of have to use your gifts, and I guess I'm paraphrasing what you were saying, but this idea that you use your gifts, the things that God gave you, and use that to connect with others. Then it's not awkward. Then it feels right, and you do it naturally, and it just what comes. So
Use your gifts, what you're passionate about. I think those things that come naturally is how you interact and how you connect with people is very important. And I think if you have to work at it, there should be some level of work, but as I said before, the Holy Spirit is going to give you that energy to do what needs to be done. If you keep God in the center of your life and all things you do, as you go through this life, regardless of where you are, if you're at school, if you're at work, if you're at home, if you're at church, we are to be Christians in all areas of our life. And the Holy Spirit is going to give us that. As the Spirit is willing and the body is weak, the Spirit will give us that energy to go on. Life is busy, always gets busy, and it's never going to slow down. It's never going to stop.
Brian mentioned the oxen, and it made me think that that the parable of the feast that Jesus says, "Hey, I'm throwing a feast," and that was the excuse they had back. That was first century. They're like, well, wait a minute, I got some oxen. I go check them out. So that was legit. Mm-hmm. That was a legitimate excuse. Well, it wasn't legitimate, but it was. You're right. No matter what culture you're in, you're busy. Yeah. And I thought I was busy till I had kids, and I had kids, and I was busy. Now I don't have kids, and I'm busy, and I'm like.
But here's my other thing. I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah.
It's this idea of busy. I think we use that as an excuse.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to give you an example. There's been times in my life when people have come to me and say, "Hey, let's hang out," and I'm like, "No, dude, I'm busy. I can't." And I go home and I watch TV. Right?
Well, that was
Let's be honest. No, it wasn't you, gentlemen.
You were doing.
It was never you
guys. You make
guys.
time for what is important to you.
Well, and sometimes we use it as an excuse because we may not want to interact or we may not want to participate in an activity. I think that's my point. And sometimes it's legit, and sometimes are we really that busy? Really?
Right.
Really? I don't know.
Is it business or excuses?
Exactly.
You're not, and especially when you think of the technology side of the world. It doesn't take time to call somebody, to do the Facebook thing, the email thing. Yeah, if you're going to get in the car and drive across town and go sit down and have coffee for, it's an hour and a half ordeal. you may not have time if you got kids going on or activities or whatever, work, whatever it is. But I think we can make time to do the small things,
Yeah.
which make a huge difference.
And that was his point in the chapter, really. You be intentional, do something.
I mean, how many times have we gotten up on Sunday and gone, oh, I have to teach this morning, or I have to give the call to worship, or maybe I have to give the sermon, whatever. But then when you go do it, I don't know about you guys, I always feel so much better after I've done it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always. I'm
But
like,
you-
that was totally worth it. But before it, and I feel like it's Satan. I'll be honest with you. I think he tries to, no, you don't need to go talk to that person. No, you don't need to hang out with them. Right? You're too busy. It won't be any fun, right? But it's a lie. I think it's a lie.
Yeah.
Well, and oftentimes when you're thinking about going and doing something, you think it's more arduous than what it actually turns out
Exactly.
being. Generally, if you don't want to go do something, you have a bad attitude about it. You're already defeated before you get there. So, that's always hard not to start from that place. Is you say, well, this person needs that, or, maybe I need it too, and I just don't realize I need it.
Yeah.
That's oftentimes the case with me, going out and doing something socially, I'll be like, I'd just much rather stay home. But then you get there and you still have a good time. So,
Yeah. It wasn't so painful.
Right.
Well, and honestly, how difficult is it to send a text? Hey, how are you doing? If you know something's going on in someone's life.
I mean, that gets at my piece about use your gifts wisely, right? So when I first became an elder, the way I connected with a few people in this church was simply through texting and Facebook. And I had never used, Facebook that much before. It just worked out in that case.
Well, sometimes you have to do those things that you don't want to do because you're an elder. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe that's the way the people that we're trying to reach, that's the way they communicate.
Yeah.
And we need to be at their level, not what we're necessarily comfortable with, but what they're comfortable with and where they want to meet you.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, I don't know if I would really be doing Facebook if it wasn't for ministry stuff. Because, it's not a full, real connection, but at least it's a cyber connection. It's a something. And there's so many people I've connected with through social media that opens a door to, then something's going on in their life because of something they posted or maybe something they sent, a message they sent. And then you're like, oh, okay, that opens a door. And now you're already, quote, friends, but then you can actually engage in real relationship stuff. Like, hey, I saw you post about whatever. Are you okay? How can we help you? Because Facebook on itself is kind of boring, isn't it? It's just kind of like, oh, here's my dog, and here's what my cat had for
What I'm having
supper.
For supper.
Yeah.
Yay.
But that's where people are
Yeah.
in whatever media, social media.
It's the way that people talk to each other now.
Yeah.
When I've waited for my daughter at piano lessons, I'll sit in the waiting room with all the other parents, and every single person in there is on their phone. Right?
Yeah.
Checking Facebook, dude. It's like, that's how they're communicating with each other. You could literally stand in a room, be completely silent, and people are talking to each other. It's bizarre.
Well, I was just having supper with my lovely bride a little bit ago, and I saw the radar, this big band of storms coming toward us. So I jumped on Facebook, and we have a group we're a part of. We started the big conversation. Hey guys, are we going to meet or we're not? What do you think? And then here we're all talking, using that social media medium. And here we ended up being here, so haven't heard any thunder lately. Anything else? What specifically? I guess we've kind of been talking about that. Are there any other things you can do to connect? I don't know. I'm trying to think outside the box, and the problem is we live in this box, right? But
Well,
yeah,
and I guess one other thing that stood out from this chapter for me is still the power of face to face and being present with people. And the couple examples that he went through with the praying with the family. It doesn't go into detail, obviously, so you don't know how well they know the elders and some of that, but just the power of showing somebody you care. And I don't know that even has to be an elder thing. I think that's just a person, people thing of, if you show people that you want to have a relationship with them and that you care, even if it's just showing up and not even really saying anything, I think that has a lot of power, and that goes a long way of, sometimes I think we get caught up where we have to have this big production of stuff, and
Yeah,
have to
I
send
agree.
43 emails or 12 Facebook posts and all this stuff, and it's like I don't know that it really matters to make that real connection with somebody. Sometimes it's just actually being there for them, and definitely being live and in person is definitely better than an email or better than a text message.
I prefer to talk to people face to face and talk them on the phone. And my wife actually had to talk me into getting text on my phone, and I fought against it for so long. I can't imagine no text anymore. I mean, I have text,
Yeah.
but it took me a long time to do that. Yeah. And I still prefer to see people, face to face. I prefer to go into the store to see the product versus call them on the phone and buying it online. I prefer to go to the store. So that's just me, though.
I drive my family crazy. I hate drive-throughs. I like the convenience of it, but I talking through to a speaker, and half the time they don't get it right or whatever. I want to be able to look at them in the eye and say, hey, okay, I'd like to have a Big Mac or whatever it is,
Yeah.
Well, you never know who God's gonna bring into your life
Yeah.
at some moment. That's awesome.
Okay. Well, like I say, it was a short chapter. Any final thoughts? It's a pretty short episode, but it was a short chapter. What was it? 4 pages?
Maybe.
Yeah, something
like
like that.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is just got to try to meet as many people in your day-to-day walk and as you can, and have honest, real relationships in the moments you do have with them. So those, and then you also you can use technology to help fill in those gaps when you're not able to get together.
Yeah. Like I say, as long as we're not letting that replace it, but sometimes that's all you have. And,
Right.
Absolutely. All right. We'll wrap her up. Chapter 3, They Smell Like Sheep.